If my world stopped turning in the morning, and if God should take this all away, if it all should stop without a warning, the angels and devils meet at night. They dance, they caress each other, holding on so tight. The angels and demons side by side.
Hallelujah. Ganaba, snägga, estamos en música. Si es mobile, mi casa, snägga i nota, och barnen mais några snus. Si es mobile, mi gas. Voi castigan giudscano da scenda giuga, voi camdighi giunta stimo tutti nostre verità. Voi canzone sempre disfrutando al momento di giocare. Jugarem a estimar-nos. Voi castigan giudscano da scenda giuga, voi camdighi giunta stimo tutti nostre verità.
In the disco. Music is what I want, music is what I need. Kiss me and turn me slow, up and down, here we go. Music is what I want, music is what I need. Kiss me and turn me slow, up and down, here we go.
Du bist das Leben, das ich lieb. Du hast das Lachen, das ich brauch. Du bist der Stern am Sternenzelt und alles andere Schöne auch. Du bist die Kraft, die mich umgibt. Du bist die Wärme, bist das Licht.
Foi magia quando eu te toquei e o beijo que te dei. Naquele dia, naquele dia. Foi magia quando eu te toquei e o beijo que te dei.
What's happened to your love? What's happened to my love? We've been together for so long, but now the feeling's gone. What's happened to your love? What's happened to my love? It's gonna be alright. Clap your hands, oh clap your hands. Everybody just clap your hands. Clap your hands, oh clap your hands. Have a wonderful time. Celebrate, oh celebrate. Everybody let's celebrate. Celebrate, oh celebrate. 'Cause the world is a beautiful place.
À chaque pas que l'on fera, à chaque geste qu'on offrira, ce sera le début d'un autre demain. Dans chaque mot que l'on dira, dans ce futur qu'on construira, c'est l'amour que dessineront nos mains. Without you, nothing can turn out right. I lie awake all night.
Without you,
I keep calling your name. My life can never be the same.
over the rain, there's still a sun that could ease all your pain. I've always tried, holding your heart, bringing you high. I just wanna open your closing mind.
On again, off again, let the rhythm of pain. We need to decide, find an end to this game. Such wonderful times, many natural highs. Love is a flame.
That's all I can say. Blend with my blue the colors of you. Oh, please help me see through this journey. I must take alone.
Hoy me quedé vacío para llenarme de ti. Mi refugio será tu cuerpo y mi tierra tu vientre de trigo el flor. Hoy me quedé vacío para llenarme de ti. Mi caricia será tu aliento, mi bandera en la luz de tu dulce amor. Hasta el final te voy a dar de todito mi amor, con mi piel y mi vida. Now that I found that someone I believe in, and I feel so complete by your side. It's the only time I've ever loved somebody, baby, in my life. We gotta hold on to our love tonight. Don't reach out there, leave me, I just don't care. You look the way you stand, you just don't stand. Don't believe me, I pray. Believe me, I just don't care. You look the way you stand. I'm queen of the world, of make believe. You make me feel crazy. You make me see things I do. You make my day crazy. You make me feel the image of you. You make me feel crazy. You make me see things I do. You make my day crazy.
Shake, 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 mi amor. Please for love, give me some more. Shake, 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 mi amor. Please for love, give me some more. Shake, 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 mi amor. Please for love, give me some more forever. Yeah, 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 yeah. Shake, 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 mi amor. Please for love, give me some more. Shake, 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 mi amor. Please for love, give me some more. Shake, 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 mi amor. Please for love, give me some more forever.
Just can't wait until tonight, baby, till I have you by my side, baby. Just can't wait until tonight, baby, for being with you.
Don't hide your soul for real. I'm for real. Come on, I wanna bring you out. 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 Do you want? Do you want? I wanna bring you out. I wanna bring you out. We're not the same, but so much alike. You are my brother, my sister tonight. We got one life, living together in one life. Let us be free. One life, you take my troubles away, light up my day. Forever and ever, go, 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 wild dances, baby. I wanna be loved, baby. I'm gonna take my wild chance, baby. Freedom, baby, baby. I'm wild dancing. Hey.
Plany moje oddane, bliższej mnie tłumuje. Witam samotności sama, ludy koje nie czuję. Plany moje noczeskreni.
You are the only one. I've got my silence when you are by my side. I'm truly blessed to
part of me lives for me, would die for me. A part of me